All right, guys, I hope you are ready. You, not you or you, but you are ready for an adventure. We're opening up a kit body, a raw kit body. Got a neck, got a body, and we are again trying to defeat the howling growlback feedback that only Troy Murrah and Cody Shade Harrow could love, and put thinner instruments in the hands of people who will play them, whatever possesses them to do that. Now, before I forget, this episode is going to be full of stuff from our friends at Angelus. That's right, Angelus Leather Products since 1907, straight out of Los Angeles, California, cultural capital of the world. And you're going to see a cool finish. You're going to see us meeting new tools, possibly retiring some of the old ones. We're going to end up with a stack of records and chunks of really thick license plate. This is going to be a little bit long. They all are. I tell you, I'm going to keep it short. I don't. I'm not known for shortness. So at the end of the day, get ready. We're going to put a really cool finish on something and completely trash it with junk. Like I said, you're going to meet a new tool, and you are going to see me destroy perfectly good records. Let's go to the bench. I'll wait for you because I'm already here. Because that's right, if you're waiting on me, you are running backwards. I tell you, this is a double cutaway semi-hollow body. You see that? And we all know what this is, and we're not going to fuel anybody's channel to talk about, you know, who stole from who. I did an episode about that up there, and you can click on that if you want. But this comes to us from our friends at Guitar Kit World, and you've seen a lot of these kit builds, so I'll skip the part where I'm talking about how you sand this down, how a WYPALL wipe all rag is going to be your indicator of what is ready to finish and what is not. We're going to use naphtha, we're going to use some different things. Again, there's an episode up there, a playlist that gets you through this. But this guitar, I'm going to call it Bones, and we're going to have some help from our friends at Angelus Leather Products in Los Angeles, California, cultural capital of the world. Yeah, these people have been around since 1907. They know what to do with leather. But the idea here is there's a pattern here, up here. This maple is highly figured, and we are going to try to use black to bring up some of the pattern in the maple, and then we're going to go over the top of it once we sand it down using a gray here that we have to agitate highly, kind of like the way fireworks agitate dogs highly. But this is the key to our success here. We are going to use some black and white stuff. This is going to someone, and the parts and the scrap apparatus and the memorabilia that they gave me is going to match this finish. So you've seen it, and you'll see it again, and I guarantee you this will be in Coveter's paradise. So yeah, go ahead, get to the illegal fireworks stand, do your thing, make your insurance agent so unhappy that they chose to insure you. Go enjoy yourself while I do some work. I almost forgot, truss rod, killer abalone fret markers, side fret markers. Binding is incredible. This thing just drops right in nice and tight. No gaps. It's ready to go. Now I can become the artiste I am pretending to be. Okay, you saw the sides and the back get the first coat, and now we're going to go over the front with naphtha again, just in case something got touched or got some gunk on it along the way. And this is where we are going to put a coat of this Angelus Jet Black leather dye over the figuring in the maple. Now this naphtha just takes a little bit to vaporize off. And as I've always told you, the arched area here takes care of itself. It's these areas down in the low spots that tend to collect stuff, and it's going to be hard to sand right in this area, so we're going to be really careful putting that first layer on. And while that naphtha is vaporizing off, we're going to cut a couple more pieces of White Ball 80. Now, like I said, we are going to be really careful using this product. We don't want to drench it because we are going to have to sand it off. So we're going to get a little bit like that. Yeah, you don't want to spill this stuff on your workbench. And I'm going to have another area here, or another piece of white ball, so I can take everything off as I need to. Okay, we're on the last piece here, and what we're trying to do is get this depth of color to be the same, because again, we're going to have to sand off this black enough to where it just picks up the pattern here. You can, I hope you can see it, but as you get going here, the figuring of the wood starts to pop through. Now I want to use a light color, like a really light gray, because it matches what I'm going to be doing with the theming of the guitar, and hopefully that works out. If it doesn't work out, well, then I've always got other options. Sanding this down is going to pop this color, and then using a French polish over the top is going to make it look really cool as I mumble and bump. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I've got some 600 and some 220. So I'm just going to carefully go over this as smooth as possible, remembering that this part is lower and there's a slight rise on the horn of this double cutaway here. So we don't want to be going really fast and doing short strokes here. We want to kind of do this. Once the sandpaper gets used to it, you'll see what's happening. We're not going to get all the color off, but the idea is to get as much of it off as possible, and then we will come over with this light gray, and you can tell that it's trying to separate. If you look at the top and you look right here, it's producing layers like you would do a soil texture type test, where some of the bottom stuff gets to the bottom and then there's another layer above it, and the really light stuff goes to the top, which is the pigment. But anyway, this is going to be a long process, so I can also do it with an orbital sander. Okay guys, here we go. This thing is looking pretty good. Depending on where the light is here, it kind of looks like one side's lighter than the other, but as you spin it around, you can see that everything is pretty much even. And what I did was I put the black on, then I put some of the gray on, and then sanded most of it off is what happened. And now what we're going to do is I've just wiped it down with naphtha, and I'm going to put some sanding sealer on it, and that is going to make it pop, and we'll be able to see what this pattern looks like. It's got white binding there, here, thin on the top, wider on the sides. And of course I got my glove on so I don't get any stains and sweat and oil and all that. But there we go. Survived the white ball 80 test, and we're going to see it as it pops with the sanding sealer. All right, there we go. The sanding sealer, I like to come over the top with sanding sealer. I could also use lac pad finish, put it on thick, one pass each way. This guitar is going to end up being lac pad finished like the cello or the violin that they did 300 years ago, because that puts on layer after layer, and I don't have to have all kinds of fancy spray equipment in here. So this is going to pop nice when it hits. Oh yeah. Wow, this looks like one of those Formica tables that you would have seen in the 50s. I think Backer Custom Guitars makes guitars that way, where they have that edge on them. And this modeled Formica, or whatever you want to call it. Now this stuff is sucking this in, I can tell you that. Okay, here comes the third coat, and this should be about enough. It's starting to keep it shine. You can tell when the wood is still sucking the stuff up because it is dull once it's sprayed. Now I'm going to give this a light sanding job when it's done, and I'm going to start going to work on the lac pad finish, and it will go right over the top of this. Where you want to pay attention to, the top always takes care of itself, but these side areas where the radius are and where this climbs up pretty steep, that's where the wood grain is exposed. Where it's flatter and more rounded, the grain is smoothed out. But wherever there's these radical changes here, here, and down in this area, there's going to be more of those open vessels, and they're going to suck up whatever you put on it. My experience is you'll get about 2.5 guitars tops out of one of these cans here. I haven't found a good replacement. I'm sure there is one that's economical. If you know, put it in the comments and everyone will thank you for that. All right, let's clear out the top and let this sit. Okay guys, we are putting our final coat of the same stain we used on the body on the neck here, and you can see that I'm leaving the sides and top of the headstock in bare wood right now, because the junk piling theme is going to be different than this black here. But I had this on the body already and made sure that everything was going to fit, as well as where the coating would be visible and where it would not be, because I don't want to paint or coat anything that could be a wood-to-wood gluing surface. So there we go. I'm going to put the foam brush back in the bag here and seal it up. This pinstriping tape with a little fold over on the end is good for that. And in case there's something that needs to be sanded or finished, touch up later, we can do that. This workbench is very handy, workstation, excuse me, is very handy for having your tools in the right spot. Okay, while that neck is drying, we're going to keep doing what we're going to do 100 times, literally, is we're going to take our lac pad and continue on with this French polish. Again, you sweep off, on, sweep off, don't plop on. Watch that your lac pad doesn't get a wrinkle or a crease in it. If that happens, you'll hear it clicking. But always charge new stuff from the top. Linen, wool sock, cotton inside. Tap it like so. Do not put oil on it. Olive oil, what anyone might tell you. Don't do that. That stuff gets moldy after a while, and one day you'll find your guitar in its case and it will literally be sweating, and that oil is degrading from underneath the finish. You do not want that. So you can tell when the lac pad finish is taking, because it will start to pull back at you. You can feel it. Just keep the pressure going. Again, remember, the low sections and the sections where the radius is where the most fibers have been exposed, and that's the place that will suck up your polish. This is basically putting a layer of lac finish over the guitar every time you put a new application. After a while, it gets really thick and smooth. All right, there we go. Right back in. We're also going to do the body, but there you go. Good morning, guys. Welcome to early morning. You can tell there's no sound anywhere except a few birds. That's the way it works in the city. We're coming back out to pull the clamps off of the neck being glued on Bones, the Junkpileguitar. I wanted to show you a couple things here. First off, we have our leather. The rough or suede side is out, smooth side down. And then we got this George Clinton parchment funkadelic treatment here so we don't mar up our wonderful backside by clamping things down. So these are taped off as well. And down in the pocket, I put a piece of wood that fits. Across the clamping surface, because the neck turns flush, or is flush, with the cutout. So I wanted to keep it that way. We don't want anything shifting around. You see that there? Nice and smooth. And let's check out the back. Yeah, everything's good. So now we'll have the task of, actually, I think I will actually put the clamps and the piece of wood that I used away in the drawer right there. Did you ever open up a drawer you haven't seen in a while? Found something you've actually been looking for 100 times? Yeah, so we put the pinstriping tape on the binding, and if there's any bleed off, of course, we're just going to scrape that. But you see there what a contrast that is. And of course, if there's any wood that's showing, we can touch that up as well. This is kind of a pain, but it beats scraping the whole thing. Now, when you're working with binding, you can take one of these cutters, and because these are adjustable like so, you can pull it down to the very first one, and it is perfect for getting this little strip of top binding done. And also it gives you a way to catch on to the masking tape. You want to remember these masking tapes are graded by how long they're meant to be left on a surface that you're trying to protect. And you'll notice that if you forget and leave a guitar out in a garage or hot area and stuff, and it comes time to pull the masking tape off, it does not want to cooperate. And that is why that adhesive is meant to retain its property for a certain amount of time. You got to get into the details of the labeling and product information if you want to know what those things are. But you can see here, that's a nice little accent there against here. And then of course, that really stands out, which is cool. All right, we got a lot to do on this thing, and I'll visit you again. Okay guys, we are back in nonstop action, Acton, California, cultural capital of the world, and we are still working on Bones, the junk pile arch top. Now, we've got some headstock to do. We are going to put a gray finish on the side of the headstock and a little bit up on the top, but this part here, right here, is going to be covered with something, and we are going to make a pit guard out of a specialized object, and I am going to show you a tool that I have discovered that's going to take me away from my favorite Malco 12s and put me a little bit more modern. So Let's take a look here at, first off, I have a piece of headstock, cardstock, and I want to trace the headstock out as I usually do. And we're going to do that with a Sharpie or a marker. Trust me, I'm still getting used to the camera angle here. This will kind of get us close, so I will cut that out. And then I'm going to take something that comes in here and put it up here. I don't think you've seen that before. So that's all you're going to see on that. Now, let me get this out of the way. This guitar vise, or this vise, is so versatile. It does things that I've not seen another vise do. But you know that I use quite a bit of metal. Some of it's had heavy metal, and some of it's not. Remember, a Sparky, the Junkpile guitar, it has some tin up on top. Remember, electricity will kill you, kids. And then it has some heavier license plate stuff. And when you start getting back into the 50s and 60s, these license plates are not pieces of paper that are flopping in the wind. So can you see this? What I've done here is I have traced out on a piece of cardstock the shape of the pick guard that I want, and I've taken into consideration where the letters and figures on the license plate are and incorporated that into the template. And now I'm going to put some tape on here so I can actually draw it out on the license plate. And then I'm going to show you what I traded the Malcos in for. All right, I've zoomed in a little bit. There's some noise here because I have a door open, so you're going to hear some traffic and some other things, but you're going to be so completely and utterly disamazed by what I'm fixing to show you that you're going to forget about that dog barking. Let me tell you. So we've got that there. Watch the tape you use on this kind of stuff, because the adhesion properties of the tape, if you leave it sit on and heat up and that kind of thing, is not going to work out well for you. Okay? So, one more piece here. There. And one that underneath there, like so, like so. And now we're going to take our magic marker or our Sharpie, whatever you called it in your time, and we're going to go around like so. This plate is probably thicker than any one I've ever used before, and it is a 1953 Michigan State plate. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to put this away and put it on a piece of old cigar box, one of the ones that I don't use, that's not a Camacho. And you can tell at one point I had this idea that I was actually going to put this on a license plate guitar frame, because I had the T-nuts and and everything ready to go here, okay? And I don't want this rattling. But they make metal shears and things that they call nibblers. Now the nibblers will typically go on a cordless drill, and it has like a wheel on it, and when you put it in the chuck of the drill, there's a wire, kind of like a wire frame that might go on a electric violin or something, but it comes down and it wraps around the handle of your drill where the battery goes, and it kind of makes things stable, and it goes along. I think if you're cutting sheet metal, it works out pretty good. But if you're getting into the stuff that's 18 gauge and 14 gauge and maybe even a little bit thicker, it doesn't work. And like I said, I'm wearing myself out with one of these. So I've been looking for one of these. This is a Milwaukee. They made different brands. The body is one thing, but these typically tended to be the same regards to the brand. I like Milwaukee. I was born near there. Well, up north, but enough to claim Milwaukee more so than Michigan, or definitely Minnesota. But anyway, this thing will cut metal, and what it does is it cuts a strip. It doesn't just cut one edge, and cutting that strip takes the bend and the curvature out of, when you usually cut metal, getting the jaws to keep going is a problem. So when you cut metal, I remember I did a guitar that had a, I even forget what it's called. It's supposed to be in Idaho by now. It still might be trapped in Montana. I don't know. But I went out to a place that was basically the remnant of a crack house meth lab or something by an old airport airfield or something, and I got a fender. Now this might look like a woman's figure or something, but I don't want to get a cease and desist letter because I use the word fender. This is an F-150 Ford pickup truck fender, but let me show you this. This is pretty thick, and you just take this and you put in there. Let me get a hold of this. This thing's pretty good about not leaving shardy metal. Oh, and by the way, you get these things that you can make, like drill a hole in them and hang them from a Christmas tree or something like that. But it was kind of weird. I went up to get this. I was down on the South Bay where you've seen me filming the earlier part of this episode. It took me 3 days to get up there. The guy held it for me. It was on a street called something Circle, and I got really close to the address. I looked up, and the other street over here was Tamara place. That's Tammy's name. Tell me that's coincidence. But anyway, now that I have this, you're seeing it live here. I'm going to jump on here, and I... Alright guys, that got us pretty close. I can take my Melcos and go around the edges and then take it to the belt sander and knock the rest of it down. Okay guys, I will tell you that was a lot easier than what I have been trying to fight with for years on these thick license plates. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this here and figure out where my cutouts are going to be. I want the Michigan to be outside, and I've got some hardware here, and so things are going to have to be cut away. Okay guys, I am going to do a gray on the sides and top edge of the headstock, anywhere where we can where we're going to have the color exposed, because I'm going to put something very unorthodox as a cover of the headstock, highly personalized to the individual. I have taken an outline of the headstock and put it on cardstock. This will give me a way to take Chick Flick Teal scissors and cut this out right along that magic marker or Sharpie line. There we go. Now I can fold this in half and make sure that everything lines up here. You see, that all worked good. There's a little bit I can cut right there. There we go. Okay, like I said, you have not seen this before. I've got a good set of tuners. They're Arias, and those will go on the headstock. And check this out. Fillmore East, June 1971, a group called the Mothers. So this person gave me this album. I think it's worth something. I don't know. Let's see what's on side one. It can't be that bad because, yeah, it has Chick Flick Teal. That's for sure. And the record label is Bizarre. There we go. That fits everything. So now what I want to do is I want to put this to where everything is going to fit in the right place. Maybe we can do that up there. See what that looks like. Yeah. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape this off and trace this out and take this to a bandsaw, and I'm actually going to cut this vinyl, and then I'm going to use some epoxy over the top to have it stiffen up. All right, there we go. Now we can just scrape it like binding. Get it right up to the edge of the wood. Get rid of that paper. They came up with the sander right there. All right, guys, Bones, the junk pile guitar, Part of it is drying. Part of it's trying to see if the transplant will take. And I've got a pile of stuff over here that are shards of records and pieces of metal only a scrapyard could appreciate. The next time you see bones, it's going to be all put together. It's going to have some screaming pickups, and it's going to have some more scrap apparatus on it, and it will be something that only coveters like you could really appreciate. Like, subscribe, all that garbage they say. Guys, in all seriousness, I really need those 3 extra likes. It's the difference between $3 and $13. Let's go do your job, because God knows. Where's my cross? I'm doing mine.